30 for him.
Boo-hoo. Boo-hoo.
Nicholas.
Warm welcome to Nick, please, who's joining us online. And the question for the panel today, all the questions are actually coming from you. So we sourced in the registration form your burning questions for any of the lovely people here. So all the questions I'm going to be asked, or they are going to be asked now, are coming from you. And we will still have time for Q&A afterwards. If your question is not asked, we'll have plenty of time later on because we'll all find ourselves together for the dinner again. Tiago will say a few words about that afterwards. But let's dive right in. Shall we try to see, because we can't use the mic for all of us, shall we try to see if that works for me as well, so that it's not weird if I'm the only one with the mic, actually? Now that it's quiet and I got your attention?
Yeah, let's try.
Who's in the back? We can ask.
Yeah, Burton, is that working well for you in the back? Okay,
Perfect.
good. So let's dive right in with a question looking back. And the question is, looking back over the past 25 years of effectuation research, what were you most wrong about in your early thinking? Or is there anything that you unlearned along the way?
I have a clear answer.
Where should we know?
I think I made a mistake in calling pilot in the plane.
Okay, all right.
At the very least, I should have called it pilots in the plane.
Okay.
Ah,
That's it.
we rename it now?
Yep, I tried in the second edition of the book, the purple book. I have tried and apologized as well. I said we should just simply call it the co-creation principle, or the pilots in the plane.
So maybe as you're practicing effectuation, Rob, is there something that you had to unlearn when you put it now into practice?
Well, the biggest mistake that I made in all my stuff is it's very hard to look at effectuation at the individual level, the company strategy level, and some higher level. I know I made mistakes at different levels of analysis of my research, just from a measurement standpoint. That's probably the one that stands out to me. But your answer reminded me of labeling these things is hard. Certainly, the use of words to shorthand label things is very difficult, and I'm certain we could have done better on that. Pilots in the plane being an example.
Yeah.
And Nick, as you look at how the theory has actually evolved, is there any notable or unexpected realization that you had about the principles or the theory more broadly?
So to me, right? So I think the thing when I reflect on it, the thing that kind of occurs to me is, like, if you go back to the time when we were originally working together, like how much of it is like experimental kind of thing. You're sort of trying out different ideas and seeing what works. And to Rob's point, or to Saras's point, like what language works, and you just don't know, at some point in the future what's going to turn out to be the right words. And at the time when you're sort of grasping for trying to put it together, you've got these, sort of a small array of linguistic tools. You don't always get it right. And so I think that's just the nature of doing something that at the time at least was sort of very, original and nascent. And so you're just trying to figure out how to articulate it the right way. It's and we made plenty of mistakes in the process of doing that. I mean, there's as many papers probably that we didn't get published, remember, as the ones that we did get published. So there's like plenty of mistakes out there if you go get in the file drawer.
And after 2 decades, Stuart, do you feel that effectuation has actually grown closer to capture how entrepreneurs truly act and think, or has it evolved towards how academics interpret effectuation and entrepreneurship?
That's a good question. I would say both. I would say that we've gotten better at being able to explain some of these abstract concepts to people who want to start organizations or companies or social movements or whatever it is. And I think we've also gotten better at answering the questions from the academics about well, what is it? And is it actually adaptation? Is it trial and error? I don't know.
Yeah. How is it different from?
Yes.
We have to get that all the time
All
on
the time.
everything.
Yeah. So I would say that there's been more specificity on both sides, and it has been hard.
One observation to the front end of that question is, is it better apps for describing how entrepreneurs actually work? I think over the last 25 years, the marketing of the venture capital community and the media around entrepreneurship, I actually think entrepreneurs know and see and sometimes even do more causal things than they used to, because I think that side of the coin has been very loud for 25 years. So I find I have to help entrepreneurs kind of unlearn some of the things that the VC media tells them, just because that's been for 25 years a big part of TechCrunch and all the things that entrepreneurs presume they need to go do.
And where's that coming from? Why is media?
The internet.
And do you have any ideas? Why do you think the internet is so causal?
Oh, I don't know. It's very loud. I don't know that I have a better answer than that.
I have a simple answer to that one, and that is Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Silicon Valley gives the wrong message about entrepreneurship all the time,
Yeah.
right? They will not honestly admit that the failure rate is freaking high, so they don't really know how to build a successful venture, or because the ones that are so successful, everybody is always holding forth on here is how you succeed, or here is how you need to think about it, and the entire lean startup movement did not do any service to make the conversation any deeper, right?
But speaking from Silicon Valley,
Yeah, blame that man.
Yeah, there he is.
He's the reason.
yeah, no, I will not be. But so I would say, I mean, they're trying in their own way, right? But not necessarily getting it right. I think it's definitely true. There is a certain Silicon Valley way of doing things, and it's very lean startup. They've leaned into lean startup an awful lot. And so that gets you certain kind of outcomes, build it big, go bang, in a spectacular way. But it's probably not characteristic of most ventures in most places, everywhere else. It's a very small number of companies if you think about it.
Yeah.
So that perfectly leads me into the next question for you, Saras. What do you know now that you wish you would have known in '98?
Okay, I just gave actually a very profound answer, but it's going to sound dumb here. I gave it to Abdullah here. Okay, everybody can laugh at me on this, no problem. But I said, eat less, move more, sleep regularly.
That's good advice.
That's the basics.
That works.
But you want to know about effectuation. Is that So the one thing, this one is a more serious answer, which is I really would give advice to that person earlier is, embrace more of the 2x2, the cave framework. I was so busy with the dichotomy because I also believe that the human brain learns through dichotomy. So causation versus effectuation. And I would always say this is not about reality, this is about conceptualization. But I really wish I'd leaned more into the whole 2x2. I think it would have been, based on responses that I receive now, I think we should have done more of the entire 2x2. And that way, prediction and control becomes the dimension on which you have the dichotomy and not causation and effectuation. And I hope that answers it.
You want to add
From my side.
If I can add something there, we did talk a lot, if you remember back in time, we did talk a lot about the vision and adaptation as well.
Yes.
We talked a ton about it, but it never really made it into the paper. And as you say, it got sort of edged out in other ways, in probably some of the stuff we were writing. But I remember we used to talk about that a lot.
Yeah. And also publication process is brutal sometimes, right? For example, we were not allowed to call it effectuation, that quadrant, right? That's why it was called transformation in the original paper. There was so much pushback in the review process And I remember Stuart presenting 2001, we have this paper, and then everything, like 4 papers in 2009. Like, what were we doing in the interim 8 years? We were working, we were writing like mad people, but it was really, really difficult to sort of make it through the academic process was not easy.
It is true. Coming around to the 2x2, we had an interesting experience in about maybe 8 or 10 years ago, where somebody from one of the big management consulting firms took the paper that we wrote on SMJ, republished it without any reference to us.
In HBR.
In HBR, not just anywhere. And we were so shocked that somebody would take our work and publish it without any reference.
They did not even cite.
No.
Not in a footnote.
And looking back at that, we should have realized the 2x2 is where the money is.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, it took that, but instead we got irritated, which I think was fair too. But I think we did have a wake-up call there, and in fact, it took somebody else from outside to really highlight that to us.
To finish the story, though, we did not keep quiet.
No, God, no.
We sued them and they took it back, but of course nobody sees that, all of that. If it's not in the paper, it's not in the paper. Nobody's looking for the story afterwards. So
yes. Anyway.
Yeah.
So is this also kind of an ask to the community here? Like, if you do the work, also pay attention to the 2x2?
Yes, absolutely. I think we need to fill out the relationships in the 2x2 in future research, hopefully, and it's really useful in teaching.
Yeah, when you get into the practice of this stuff, the dichotomy is useful for illustrating the intellectual distinctions and thinking academically. In practice, people are moving around the 4 quadrant, the 2x2 all the time.
Yeah.
And the ins and the outs of that are the practical, oftentimes the hard parts of doing this. There's plenty of work to be done around that is beyond just trying to teach in the first place, the distinction, which is certainly where we started. Because it's like, no, this isn't that, was where we started. And now I think that people are beyond this isn't that, and now it's like, how do you mix these together, which is very common.
Yeah, and one interesting thing that's happening on that front is students picked up on this idea of a co-created vision.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They are the visionary, not as this person who came up with the vision in the first place, but co-created vision. And today morning, somebody asked the why question. So they were also asking this question, is it, when you say why, does it have to be individual? You can have a co-created why if you're open to it. And the why you come up with that way is sometimes more powerful, but also bought into, right? Because your why, you're not alone with your why. So there are some really interesting insights in the classroom that are coming by just bringing up the 2x2.
So Nick, hearing all about those struggles back then, what are nowadays the barriers that prevents effectuation from becoming the dominant paradigm in entrepreneurship?
Oh, so I have no idea what the answer is. I think I would say, should it be the dominant paradigm? I mean, I'm not sure that's really would be to be dominant. I don't think is actually very healthy. Should it be among or mixed in the conversation? Yeah, I would really hope it is, right? And so I think it'd be great if it's it'd be great if most people who were in the business at least knew enough about it to be able to teach it and apply it where they think it's useful. I don't envisage a time where it squeezes everything else out. I don't think that would be a good idea.
So what is your proudest moment actually linked to effectuation, to research, teaching, seeing it in practice? What can you share with us that you say, like, this actually makes me go, well done?
I was just happy to get a PhD. Like, just defending my dissertation was probably, it's like, oh, phew, that was a big relief. Everything else has been, since then, has just been fun.
I do have a moment that was so powerful that I'm not sure it was my proudest, or I don't even know what that is, but the most moving, a moment when you feel like this has made a difference. So Helena Vieira in Brazil converted a lot of the content into cartoons and pictures and stories to teach illiterate people around Brazil. She built Aliança Empreendedora, and she has trained, I think, something like 200,000 people, many of them women. And when I was invited to go to Brazil, she organized an event where she invited some of the entrepreneurs who have actually built companies. And it was a panel like this, but it was mainly the entrepreneurs. And I do not know why I was even invited on the stage, but I was sitting on the stage. And the first woman, she was of African descent, African Brazilian. And she stood up and she said, for the very first time, I heard this phrase that who I am is a resource. And she took that to heart, and that entrepreneur has been educating people on this notion of you can turn who you are. And it's not only the fact that she is, Brazilian of African descent. It was not even that. Sometimes it's just the fact that you are a mother or a widow, or it could be any kind of. And she was talking about how do you transform that into something, and here's a beautiful sentence, of value to someone else, and of so much value that that becomes a source of income for you. So this way, her understanding of what this was just moved me to tears. And there were several of them now teaching people in other countries, because they can do this without words. In fact, Helena calls it language neutral. Right? So that was a moment, that was quite a moment for me. Yes.
Yeah, top that.
I can't. Mine is much more.
I just get all of the good stuff based on, I just ride the wave on all of these people's heads.
So I would say this, that effectuation is great, but it really has provided a platform for me to get to work with you all, for me to have fun meetings with you all. It's been a great vehicle. That's the happiest part of effectuation for me. So, certainly not the 100+ rejections we've gotten along the way. That's tiresome.
Although it's fun to hear Nick get mad at the
That is true.
That was part of the big pleasure.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
That man uses words in ways that
don't
are
wanna
really
know.
worth
You don't wanna
listening
know.
when he's mad.
I can't believe they got that wrong. Did they actually read the paper?
You should hear Nick at his best curse.
Oh boy.
It's like, I don't even know. It's some English word that sounds funny.
Yeah.
What is it? Blistering barnacles?
What we still haven't done is we've never written the book that we said that we would do with all the rejections.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So maybe that's something we should get around to.
Yeah.
That's all a way of saying like everybody gets rejected all the time. It's a tough business.
Yeah.
Publishing papers is hard.
Yeah.
We get rejected regularly all the time to this day.
I got rejected once saying, you do not understand the paradigm of effectuation. Please read Sarasvathy 2001. I knew I have arrived.
Stuart was the reviewer.
Oh, that sounds about right.
I know better.
I know now who wrote that.
You know it.
Yeah. No. Don't take it personally.
It's true.
Don't ever take it
For a
personally.
while, we had a rule that we would complain for something like 10 minutes, like
Yeah.
vehemently, and then never complain about it again. But boy, those 10 minutes were saucy.
Nick.
Yeah, they were led by Nick. Yeah, it's true.
We would all wait till Nick finishes. And then Stuart would say, okay, so now I think we should do this.
It's true.
So what are we going to do with this
And
paper?
all Rob is doing while listening to Rick is leaning back in the chair and
It
laughing
was
and
very
laughing and laughing.
Don't we all wish we would have been there?
Yeah, you've all been there.
You have all been.
But not with you guys.
Yes.
Apparently
That's
that's rejection made fun, so.
Oh no, it wasn't. Let me tell you, it wasn't.
10 minutes, it wasn't fun, but it was humorous.
Big difference.
Talking about differences, Stuart, let's talk about how we can make a real difference in the world, because that's what the audience would like to know. Because as we all know, the world faces grand challenges, and we would like to know from you guys what a realistic action is that we can take at Effectuation as Effectuation researchers, teachers, practitioners, that would actually make a difference.
Woo.
Nick?
Yeah, that's an easy question.
That's exactly right.
Let's start with Nick.
Can we phone a friend?
Yeah, so if you can ask me, what's the resource that we have? We have the ability to reach out and educate people about this way of thinking about things. And so I would say, you should go deep on that and try and impact as many people as possible. And then what they'll go and do the things with it that if the thing they're really passionate about is to do with climate or whatever it is, right? Then they'll go and do that thing. So I always think, the way you have impact as an educator, right, is as an enabler, right? So in that sense, you're an instrument, you're a tool for all those folks, and so that's the thing that we can directly contribute to, and it'll be through all those other people. That's many hands working together.
I chase that down, that enabler thing. Yeah. I think at one level of specificity, the teaching and stuff that I do, I'm trying to enable people to don't get blocked because you think you have resource constraints, right? A lot of people hold themselves back because they don't think they have the money or the authority or the whatever. So I'm trying to enable them to not get blocked from that, and then probably enable them to go from their means and actually start acting. So like exactly what Nick said, and those are the two things where I think you can just unleash people. If you can stop them from being blocked and encourage them to actually act from their means, like a lot of really big things happen if you could turn that up.
Yes, but in the same way that effectuation is for me a vehicle for being around the people that I want to be around, treat it as a vehicle, something that you can use to do whatever it is that you're after. So maybe it's a vehicle to build a company that makes a lot of money so that you have money to implement change in the world. Maybe it's a vehicle to share a way of making decisions and taking action on the things that you want to see in the world. Maybe it's a vehicle for meeting the people who you need to work with to affect the things that you want in the world. But it's a vehicle. This is a tool. I mean, treat it as such and make the most of it. I would say it's been a good one for me.
Doesn't matter how big the problem is. Yeah. It's going to take a few people actually taking action and pushing forward to make the big change. I don't think that changes whether you're building a great company, a wonderful hospital, or literally taking on climate change. I don't see how we can get away from that.
Yeah.
And we had
this is Margaret Mead, by the way, not me, saying that, right?
But we had another question that kind of goes into the direction. So someone said that democracy seems to be under fire, and there are arguments have become more straightforward, self-serving, transactional, living in an area with leaders like Trump, Putin, Orban, Erdogan. Do we need to address the values embedded in effectuation more prominently and more specifically? And what chance or what role does effectuation offer in this kind of world? I think that kind of connects to what you said before.
Do you have thought on that, Nick? Or this one, I'm not making fun of you.
Do you have something you can say, Saras? You want to go first now?
I was going to say absolutely, right?
Yeah.
In the sense that values are, so one of the things about being at Darden, and Nick is both his master's degree and PhDs from Darden. One of the beautiful things my colleagues in business ethics have taught is ethics really is not just a set of code of conduct or endpoints of this is the good life to achieve. It truly is a struggle, right? The moment you take for granted you have invented the perfect thing and now all the problems of the world are solved, that is when you get into trouble, right? Whether it's democracy, whether it's the notion of human right, whatever it is. So it's the same with effectuation. It is absolutely a tool I'm 100%. But there are, I mean, sometimes even without our knowledge, there are values embedded in it. And to allow people to challenge us, to invite, in fact, the fact that we could be buying the wrong values by just simply using something like affordable loss, we should be open to it. And I think encouraging debates is absolutely important, and I would welcome it. I could even in the very first, in what makes entrepreneurs entrepreneurial, I talked about how it could. There was one paragraph where I talked about how this could be misused. Why? Because one of the very first people, remember, Nick, who contacted us was, this was, paper was published in 2001. University of Washington did a little bit of PR based on it, and we got incoming from the Department of Defense saying, right, the army is very causal, our enemies clearly are effectual. So the big example of effectual action was Al Qaeda at that time. Right? And so I wrote that, and everybody hates that paragraph that is there in what makes and so including some successful entrepreneurs have written like, this is commie crap, right? We get full pushback, but I am like, I know my own heart, I know human history, and we could be always buying things wholesale. So I have no problem double checking and looking for, are there ways we can say this better? This is why Pilot in the Plane bothers me, because people are just giving it some kind of command and control meaning to it, right? So I worry for sure.
Yeah, so if I can just add to that, whoever asked that question, like, that's a good question. That was the thing that struck me when you asked the question, right? Is, I mean, there's a good paper or two, or maybe more than one or two papers in that. And so, yeah, I think it's a great thing to explore.
So then let's look at countries and the whole system behind it, and let's think about universities, right? So what if all children learned the entrepreneurial method before entering university? How might higher education actually be transformed?
Well, my thought goes that. So when I think about the scientific method and the entrepreneurial method, I always immediately go towards the creation of knowledge on the one hand and the creation of value on the other hand. So if I reframe that question to, if everyone in primary education learned how to create knowledge and everyone learned the means by which they can create value, well, then university could be dedicated to a much deeper exploration of those two things done together. I would be a huge fan of that. I think this notion of how does one create value invites the values conversation from the prior question in useful ways, and it would get long past the notion that it's obvious that the right technical solution from a knowledge place will become valuable, because that's not obvious at all. But if you don't learn the entrepreneurial method, you just presume that is going to happen, and it's just not true. So I'd love to see that change.
Yeah, I'll just say ditto
Yeah.
to that point. Yeah, you said it beautifully.
Yeah, we're all in agreement on that one.
Yeah.
So then tell us more immediately, how can we actually transform universities into effectual entrepreneurial universities? How do we depart from traditional approaches towards truly effectual learning processes?
This is a question for all of you.
Yeah,
It depends on what you do next.
that's right.
So can I throw something in right? So
Yeah.
so we think about the quill, right? I mean, the whole point is if people were coming to university already with some knowledge of this, then your starting point is different, right? So so your means are different going in, and I think what you can do then in the time that people are in this place we currently call university. Becomes different. And if it was me, I would like give people carte blanche to basically get an education on anything they wanted while they were there, and to be able to like knit together or quilt together, to using that metaphor, whatever degree they wanted.
Yeah.
So I mean, I came from a place in the UK. Remember when in the days when I did the degree, not even the American system, right? As many of you know, right? In the UK, if you did a history degree like I did, you just did history. That was all you did. And I think today there's a lot more scope. We could be a lot more creative in what we let people do. That'd be my 2 pennies.
Yeah. To add to that, now that Nick said it, it's coming into my head. We are too much thinking of universities as places of certification, that you're qualified to do X and that's it, right? I think I'm not saying take that away, but you really want to expand that. You can be, a carpenter who can actually tackle sustainability and social change. Why not? And that kind of thing, right, Nick? So it doesn't mean that you do not get the skills, but we have to stop seeing ourselves as certification agencies. I think that hopefully will change in universities.
For some reason, the question made me think of something tangential to this, which is, I think we got to become much more clear on the concern that's being addressed and what the objective is. Like, what's the dependent variable? Are we trying, like, for example, and all of these are okay, but I think where a lot of these larger conversations get lost is 16 different concerns being taken care of all in the same discussion. Are we trying to change university? Are we trying to change a department in university? Are we trying to change pedagogy? Are we trying to change certification? So I just, a thought as I was listening is a lot better clarity of thought around what's the concern being addressed and where are we hoping to get, I think would be a huge contributor to that and would facilitate better effectual asks, better collaboration and those kind of things. Because a lot of times when the question's really big, I find all the concerns get packed together.
Yeah.
It's very hard to move. So just a thought.
So let me ask a very specific question then. So how does an effectual entrepreneur actually find the right balance between pivoting and maintaining a clear vision?
What?
That's what the audience wants to know.
Why the heck do you need a balance between those two? That would be the effectual question. Do not pivot and do not get caught into your vision. First step. Second step, if you're changing anything, it's because an incoming stakeholder underwrote it and you're co-creating. You're not pivoting and you're not imposing your vision or selling your vision on anybody. You really are co-creating it. So if the other person has already bought it, so that's
times a million.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a note of both.
Because both pivoting and vision are the other two quadrants, right?
Yeah.
So then, relatedly, some of you would like to know what advice you would like then to give leaders to create more room for effectuation when we actually see that many large companies are trending towards more control and tighter management.
Well, Saras points to Nick and to me because I have the corporate angle and Nick has the
Tighter control angle.
the tighter control government angle. Do you want to start or do you want me to, Nick?
No, you, by all means, it's a question I don't want to try and answer.
Sure. Well, so from the organizational perspective, and by organization, I'm talking about in general corporations or these kinds of things. For sure, there is a very clear tension between executive control and the ability to enact effectuation. These things are pretty incompatible, and it's very hard to tell somebody to go effectuate. It seems very incompatible. Part of me feels like it's going to all happen organically because I look at the rate of change and the amount of uncertainty, and it only grows. And your ability to control in that environment just decreases because you just can't. It's just too much for you to control. So organically, more and more effectuation is going to take place whether people like it or not. I think the other side of it is that as organizations try and respond to some of these uncertainties in the world and are unsuccessful doing it, then the feedback is, okay, we have to do something different. And so I think that over time, you get that feedback and people learn it one resignation at a time, one retirement at a time. And I do think that when you look at the next wave of organizations which are more flat and are more democratic and are more are more willing to enable some of the things that effectuation embraces, I think we get there kind of gradually. And organizations don't change overnight. They change like battleships in the sea, which takes me over to Nicholas.
And also the study that you did, the study that you did shows that one of the responses to increasing uncertainty
Yeah.
from the corporate sector is increasing to trying to control everything.
Right.
So empirically, the questioner has the point correctly because it's empirically held up as well.
Yes.
But eventually, over time,
It'll blow up, sure.
Yeah. Sorry, Nick.
Yeah, so I work for the US government, right? So if you wanted to like find an organization that is like seemingly like stuck in time, Rob knows this as well, right? He works with them a lot as well. So I think the answer is there are pockets in all these organizations, right? And the pockets are sometimes institutional, they're like particular parts of the organization. Other times there's like moments in time, so there's like a pocket in time when I think other things become possible. But the general rule of things is, bureaucracies are bureaucracies, and they do what bureaucracies do. And so, unless we sort of, the real answer is the more you shrink them, the more the space there is to do other things. And that's they do their thing, and there's not a lot you can do about it. So
I want to add one thing though, which is don't use the same tool for everything. Organizations and bureaucracies solve a real problem of scale that effectuation genuinely struggles with. So I would remind, like, there's an inverted U curve. There's some level of being systematic that causes tremendous gains that are the reasons organizations are able to grow in the first place. So beyond which it becomes this kind of bureaucracy that is truly just like, it's soul crushing. And short of which, entrepreneurs are constantly trying to just become organized enough to do enough good at scale. So I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It isn't like being systematic and having an organization and being causal is immoral. There are just different concerns and problems being solved. There may be points beyond which it is immoral, but it isn't inherently like being systematic has value, and effectuation is hard to systematize as you scale.
And one last thought on that is all these comments are telling us is we have a lot of work to do just simply understanding control and the role of control in the world much better because all of a sudden there's only so much work we have done on this big 2x2, the big dimensions of prediction and control. And control is something, so to Nick, that was Nick's point for years, right? We need to be thinking more carefully, in a more nuanced and textured way, more deeply about control, and we haven't done it. I mean, that work is ahead of us, all of you young scholars. There is just all kinds of things to be done in that thing, whether it's in terms of large corporate, but even just the concept of control is something we need to begin work on.
Coming back to the research, which I talked about at the first thing this morning, I do think that the stable prediction side of running an organization will gradually get turned over to AI, because AI is super good at that, and it will make more room and generate more necessity for control-oriented humans to fill that part of what an organization does. So I also think that a lot of this will happen organically through, once you build something and you want to make it 100 times, you can give it to AI and it'll make it 100 times and it'll do it great. And then somebody else is free to figure out what is the next thing.
And we talked about, you just mentioned also uncertainty, Saras. We talked about, you shared with us this morning in the teaching keynote, the example of the 3 urns and how we can think about uncertainty. So is that also a meaningful distinction if we think about how effectuation operates when we talk about the normal, I call it normal, but Knightian uncertainty that a founder has to deal with, and uncertainty that we have to face, which is caused by, for example, a major crisis impacting all of us at a different scale.
And the question is
effectuation operating differently then? Do we need to act, can we act effectual or different in any ways?
I'd like to start that one and say that one of the things which is worth keeping in mind is that effectuation is a non-predictive heuristic. It is a way of approaching decision making that doesn't require prediction. But it is not the only one. There are other non-predictive heuristics out there. And so for sure, there is great work to be done that says, wow, there's a lot of uncertainty and there's a lot of non-predictive heuristics, and it'd be interesting to see where they match up. Open research right there.
Mhm.
Which takes the 2x2. Basically, what you're saying is you could flesh out the lower right quadrant of the 2x2 with more than just effectuation, potentially. Good work to be done.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing a lot about what work needs to be done around control, about other non-predictive logics. What is the untapped potential for effectuation that excites you? What is the work that you say, like, I would like to do, we need to do, what needs to come next?
Ooh.
Nothing exciting there?
No, there is.
No. It's just a question of
So,
where to start.
and I'm silent for a minute because I just lost him. One of my students, comrade in arms, friends, the founder of Lending Tree, I just lost him. And for a while, we had been working on the idea of writing a book on effectual life. So he was really trying to implement it everywhere, really struggling implementing inside the company. So it doesn't matter, you're the founder, CEO, it's still very, very hard to try and implement it. But he had these really interesting ideas on effectual vacations, effectual parenting, and I think those are frontiers to explore. That is, and then another colleague, and in fact, Lending Tree and Doug were involved in funding it. It's a series of 6 books for children to understand effectuation. So he really, really saw the prediction control and made me see the prediction control as a space in which all of human beings live. What it means to be human is to try to make the uncontrollable a little bit more controllable in terms of the values we care about, and to make sure that the predictability is not used against other human beings when we do make things predictable, right? So he really, he opened my eyes to thinking about problems of life, and he actually tested it out on his children. So I have some data, case data on
Oh. Do they know they're human subjects? I don't know.
They probably know they were human subjects the day we were born to this father, and effectuation just gave it some
That's
structure.
right. It seemed legitimate with the label.
Anyway, I miss him terribly. I just lost him like less than a month ago. So sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up.
My ideas
I'm
are
sorry.
not nearly so grand. Like when I think about this
Oh,
kind
you
of
have lots of kids. You have to let's
I-
raise
their-
Tara
their
effectually.
Their experiments are nowhere near so legitimate. But what I think about is more, I'm an empiricist by nature, so I think about stuff of what can I measure, what can I assess, how can I relate it to outcomes. I tend to have smaller thoughts in that regard. So I'm interested in things like Cialdini's work around getting people to say yes as a part of co-creation, and how you might inform more effective asking in that kind of world. I enjoy that part of effectuation. I think there's plenty to be done there. And I wholeheartedly like the topic of control and all of its dimensions. We use that word to mean about 20 different things. And teasing that apart and getting more careful with what that is, there's a lot of great work to be done there. Those are probably the 2 areas that are most interesting to me personally.
So for me, let's see. I love the fact that effectuation serves as a platform for lots of for lots of additional follow-on research, and it takes it to so many places. I think that's a really nice feature of the idea for sure. I think that for me, and it already happens to a certain degree, but I think that effectuation gives people a chance to do the things they want to do in the world. And to the extent that we can operationalize that, we are improving the human situation. And maybe it starts with entrepreneurs, but as you say, effectual life, it makes a lot of sense to me. And I think that, and I'm excited to see that actually some of that's come up in the papers that you all are bringing to to the meeting here. And so my comment is more.
I think some of the questions are also
Yeah.
coming from the
Yeah.
fact that you all have been working on projects.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so, for me, that's that's the high level of like, sure, let's use this to enable people to do what they want to do in the world.
Any final forward-looking words, Nick?
Yeah, so the thing I've been sort of curious about and ruminating on for a long time is sort of other expert thinking in other domains, and so I think that's still a really untapped like topic of research, and I've been trying to find the time for years, right, to be able to sit down and do the same kind of empirical work, and that that we did early on with entrepreneurs in other domains. And I think to me that's still a really worthwhile
Sure.
topic, and there's just tons to go for. What is it like to what can we learn about expertise among this, that, or pick your domain, whatever it is. There's still plenty for us to do work on for the future.
And I know that we made a first step now with a question already sourced by you to get the conversation started, but I'm sure you also have follow-up questions that just arose out of this conversation. So now is the time, and I see the first
Looks like
hand
that's a
out.
yes.
Yeah, that's a yes. So please.
Yes. The question is, well, thank you first very much for this wonderful conference. It's my first time. I really enjoyed the communication today.
Welcome.
Thank you.
The first thing I want to say is, what will happen if we take this uncertainty more in the IT and economic dimension in added more philosophical context, because Derrida talks on the notion of l'avenir, like this notion of not a predictable future. There's for you, like the project beyond that. There is the entrepreneurial, the effectuation future is the unpredictable future. It's not a planned program future. It's not a plan that I follow. There are multiple things that happen. So I think it will help us also a bit more to explain a bit more the philosophical, value-driven context, more meaningful, if we leave a little bit sometimes the social economics and go a little bit more toward philosophy, and a bit more from this notion of not just the future, or like the more l'avenir as the future that is to come, to arrive, the chance, the entrepreneurial, the future that is designed, not that is projected.
Nick, did you hear the question? Would you like to take it? If not, no.
No, this is Sarah's question.
Could somebody give me a summary of the question?
No, he couldn't hear the question.
Yeah.
I think he's capable of taking it. So if I may say, and you can stop me, the question was about Derrida, and please stop me if I am oversimplifying. The idea of a philosophical view of an open-ended future.
Yes.
Right?
Projected for you, like a planned future.
Yeah, a planned future versus. So it's a question right up our street, Nick, on pragmatism and the whole idea of ends in view, but the entire future being open-ended or not. So I was wondering if you have read Derrida and you want to take that directly. If not, just talk about the open-endedness. I know you're capable of doing that. So we go for long walks and sometimes we talk philosophy. At least we really love to do that. So, Nick.
So Derrida, I don't know. This takes you back, or takes all of us back, right, to really Donald Davidson and Richard Rorty and the American pragmatists.
And Dewey. It takes you to John Dewey. Yeah.
John Dewey, obviously William James. So you go sort of all the way back. So this is an inherent aspect of philosophical pragmatism. And so, I couldn't quite get the nuances of the question, but what I would say is that if it's something you're interested in, then I'd take a good old deep dive into those authors, and if you can find a great way of connecting up with Derrida as well, then that would be fantastic. That'd be where I would start. But it's inherent. That's a worldview issue that is inherent in American pragmatism, and I think it is inherent in effectuation. Another great area. It's like the question we had earlier on about ethics. These would be good papers to work on. There's interesting work to be done in this area.
And the thing I'd like to add to that is it's really a hinge question in philosophy, right? Is the future in some way really open-ended, in some real sense that there is real choice and choice matters, or is it somehow within? I mean, choice is a little bit of a mirage inside a deterministic universe, right? That's the way I would generalize the philosophical question. And interestingly, what's happening there, that question is getting connected with physics in a big way, right? So if you want to take it up, I would urge you to look at the foundations of physics, where philosophers and physicists are beginning to look at these two questions together in developing philosophy of mind. So if you want to work in that space, you have to take a deep dive into both if you're a young scholar. That's what I would encourage you to do, because there are some really exciting things coming out of, say, David Deutsch, and especially his student Chiara Marletto, working on constructor theory, Sarah Emery Walker developing assembly theory. So a lot of those are taking the idea that the future is inherently open much more seriously. So there's some really interesting conversations at the edge of that I think we should look at. And Derrida is useful. You need to read the philosophers chronologically as well, but there's some really exciting work going on there. So I hope some of you take that up. It's just fun to think about really, really difficult things like that.
Well, we talked amongst ourselves today about what was our first touch points with effectuation and why did we stick to it. I was wondering, what is that for you? Like, how did you first get into the topic and why? What made you stay and research it further?
This is probably a question for
I think Stuart.
Nick and Stuart.
We're looking at Stuart directly.
So Nick, the question was, what is your first touch point with effectuation and why did you decide to stick with it? Stuart, please.
Sure. So I am a recovering entrepreneur. I spent about 20 years starting companies and realized that nobody really knew how to do it. And so I went back to go get a PhD, and I met Saras. And I met Saras because, at the time, she was really the only person who had written anything specific to entrepreneurship about how people enact entrepreneurship. And so the touch point was very specific and individual and reasonably directed. And
have you forgotten the actual thing?
Well, so you want so
we had an amazing moment. I will never forget about it. But
maybe
I'll remind you.
No, you don't have to. If you want,
he knows it.
I'll give you the specific because it is useful as you think about doctoral students. So then I met Saras and I said, well, okay. Here I am. I'm a recovering entrepreneur. Let's figure out how entrepreneurship works. And she said, okay, go away. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, you have to write your theory of entrepreneurship. And I said, well, I have no theory of entrepreneurship. That's why I'm here. What do you want? Tell me. I'm ready to learn. She's like, no, you've been out there. You've been doing. You have to write. And so here I was.
I said, don't read anything. You're
exactly. And here I am, a new doctoral student. I'm here to learn about what to write, not to write. So I got sent away, and I looking at my blank screen and thinking, what is my theory of entrepreneurship? And I went like this for a while, and finally I just was like, well, if I ever am to see this woman again, I'm gonna have to cough up some kind of. So I just started typing stuff, and it's funny. By the time I was done typing, it was probably 50, 60 pages. And I was like, wow, there was actually a theory of entrepreneurship. And so I think it is worth, as you meet new people and talk with them about, okay, what are we doing here, to make sure that before you taint them with the idea that you might have in your mind, you are sure to get whatever they have learned and thought about beforehand. And anyway, so then.
No, can I finish the
Yes,
story?
there's a part of the story he's leaving out.
I know.
Yeah. So,
I know what it is. Keep going.
so he comes in and then he summarized it. He might have written 50 or 60 pages.
Yeah.
He's Stuart. So he summarized it into a diagram.
Sure.
Right? And I said, what is this diagram? He said, these are all like the success factors, that I've learned, the factors that go into building the venture and everything. And he's got all of this. Like today, you saw the transformation types. It was like a circle and with a line in the middle. And then I'm asking, what is that line, Stuart? And he says, these things, all of these things I have within my control. All of these things are outside my control. And I said, what will you do with the things outside your control? He says, ignore them.
They don't matter. Who cares? You can't do anything about it.
Control them.
Work
So I
on
know-
work on the other side.
So I know for a fact that he actually has been an entrepreneur. And then I went back to the PhD admissions committee and said, I don't know what you guys are doing. We are admitting this guy.
That
And
is good.
ever since,
Yeah,
here
here we
we
are.
are growing all together.
Love has ensued for sure. Here it is, baby.
It's only getting bigger and better, the
So
love
good.
part.
Yeah.
No,
So
that's so good.
And then, do you want to know, Rob, you want to tell your story?
I want you to tell it because I'm not sure I have nearly
You
as
don't
clear
have,
of a
yeah, we
picture.
don't,
I
we
don't
don't
have
have this
maps.
great a story.
No, my story, I don't even know what I have no idea what you're going to say.
I'll tell you. Here's what, I don't know about whether he got into effectuation and why he got it, but he's a pain in the butt. Okay? So, and he comes in, and then all we need to do, because Warren Boker told me this, and I think this is a good way to do it. What's the DV? What's the IV?
Yeah.
What's the CV?
Those are
This is a
important
great
questions.
paper. But how the heck are you going to measure it?
That's right.
That was my first interaction with you.
There you
So
go.
I don't remember whether it was in class, in
I
the
don't
PhD
remember.
seminar, or whatever. And I think you were like, you got into it at the same time because
Yeah.
the measurement. So he has been he's been a pain. He continues to be a pain, just like Renee. Renee is a sweeter pain. Than
wow. Yeah, really.
That's good.
on
That's as good as it gets, Renee.
That's right. That's as good as it gets.
because as you know, I love theory, I love philosophy, I love all the psychology, all of the stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody has to measure the damn thing and actually get the R squared to work.
Yeah. I'm a pragmatist, and I stuck with effectuation because it's actually useful.
Yeah.
It's beyond just the theoretically beautiful, which it is. It's very interesting and it's insightful. And in particular, I'd say Nick and Saras have a gift in that domain. I'm obsessed to it from its pragmatic standpoint. And it is true that as an empiricist, I find lovely words to be lovely words. I like to figure out how to measure and quantify and figure out how to make decisions and trade-offs with lovely words. And so that was a fun combination.
And Nick, you want to tell the story of how we met?
Well,
Or
we met in Ed's seminar.
in
right,
a
where we
philosophy
were-
seminar. Yeah.
Yeah, philosophy seminar with Ed Freeman, where we were basically learning pragmatism, American pragmatism. What I was going to add is the backstory that probably nobody knows in this room, that Sarah, you probably remember, was that they used to joke that I was only in the Darden PhD program because I sort of announced I was coming, and I never actually applied. It was always a joke, right? And in the summer, I just sort of showed up expecting that I was in the program. I'd been an MBA student at Darden before that. And so that was literally the joke they used to tell about me, is that I was the person that actually wasn't meant to be there really. But anyway, but that's how we met, right?
Yep. We met in this seminar, and so I'm just out of the PhD program teaching in University of Washington. I'm with them in University of Washington, and I get this opportunity to visit Darden as a Batten Fellow because Venkat, who was then editor of Journal of Business Venturing, was in Darden, and he wanted me to come in because he had started this entrepreneurship PhD program, and he said, I'm the only guy in entrepreneurship, I want you to come. So I went and spent a semester, and Nick was in the doctoral program, and I just took this doctoral course, which is a doctoral course on pragmatism philosophy, taught by Ed Freeman, who's just, till today, he's my dream. I want to be able to teach like him one day. And in fact, I want to be able to teach like one of his young students who is amazing, Bobby Parmar as well. But the interesting thing in that PhD seminar was this philosophy that we had not really been exposed to till then made us lose something. Every single person, right? We were struggling. You have to like give up God or give up gravity or give up greed or give all anything that you held fundamental was still up for question. It was that kind of a thing. And the other uncomfortable thing about that is I just want to argue about everything in principle. Like you say X, I say not X, right? That's the way I'm from India. I love argumentation. It's sport for me. And I'm sitting in this seminar and I am like a groupie. I am everything that I'm reading. It was very uncomfortable. So that's what I had to give up. I had to give up my own and I had to surrender to an idea that was irresistible. And so we had this amazing experience together. And then I think effectuation was like a sideshow until you realized you want to do the history of an industry. And the memories with Nick that I have are when he went out and did these in-depth interviews of all kinds of people who were building the RFID industry. And we knew that there was a there, but we couldn't get at it, right? We would go for these walks around Green Lake in Seattle, almost, all PhD students, if you take up a good topic, you will have some kind of existential crisis, thinking that either this is stupid, like everybody has done it, or the insight is there, but I am unable to write it down or whatever. So we went through that together. So with Nick, it was truly like I became a PhD student all over again, and that's when I realized it. So I consider them my PhD cohort in a way, like my classmates more than anything else.
Thank you. I think we have time for one last question. If there's something that's still burning.
What's in the horizon for you four?
What are you four working on? What is it that you four together up to?
I think I'm working very hard on not working.
And I'm doing the reverse. I'm supposed to be not working. I'm still working very hard.
He's retired. He continues to fail at retirement.
I know, I'm a total failure. Look at me. I'm retired. I've been retired 5 years. I'm still here. What's wrong?
And he just submitted.
I don't know. I need to look in the mirror.
Presented in the morning today.
Yeah.
And Katrina made you all work on the next paper as well.
What's up with that? Yeah.
But any project you want to?
I don't think we have any grand coordinated vision. We're just sort of having fun doing things.
Yeah. And Nick?
Yeah, same thing. We keep trying to get Stu to retire. I mean, what do you say? He keeps coming back. He's like the proverbial bad thing.
Yeah.
What can you do?
Tough luck, Nick. I'm sorry about it.
All right, so let's give them a big hand and also.
Yes, Nick.
It's a little wrap up. To all the people that are there, right? So I'm sorry I couldn't make it. There's several reasons why. I'm like, always the guy on the screen and the rest of it. Hopefully you realise by now that I'm not just an AI image. I do actually, like interacting. I am real. Right?
Yeah.
I do not endorse that. AI manufactured it.
So I'm sorry I can't be there with you. Really wish I could be. Shout out to Renee and Yi and to Jim and no doubt a bunch of other people which I should really know you by now, but I don't. Wonderful for you all to come together.
Nick, thanks for joining us on the screen. It was great to have you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Nick.
All right.
Love you, Nick.
Alright, so it's up to yes. We have a little present for you.
Oh.
Enschede is like a textile city,
Yeah.
and it was after Manchester the biggest textile city in Europe. And this is young entrepreneur. She's kind of revived that whole industry with recycled things. She's going to be here on the panel
Yes.
tomorrow.
Oh,
But we got you tea towels with Enschede on.
they're beautiful.
So
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
this
much.
is a memento.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Appreciate that.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.